Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Today TV. I'm Sakshi Batra and this is Market Today, a show where we'll help you understand the closing action on the D Street. We'll get you expert views to find out where exactly are opportunities emerging for you as equity investors. First up, a quick look on the benchmark indices, both of which, the Sensex and the Nifty, are now in the green, and that is a relief sign. You can see 48 points higher on the Sensex right now at 65,451. The Nifty is also comfortably above that 19,400 mark right now, up about 12 odd points or just 0.07% higher in trade. Looks like after days of volatile trade, we are looking at a positive closing in today's trading action. Let's look at the broader markets where the pickup happened right after half point of the trading session. We did see the small caps taking the lead, and that's comfortably up about 0.6% odd in trade. The mid caps, however, are flattish with a positive bias right now. Among the other sectors, when we talk about the financials, were clearly the big pressure points in today's trading action. The Nifty Bank was down in trade. The financials, PSU banks, private banks, these were the ones that were creating some amount of pressure on the markets. But if there is any pickup, you can actually see the Nifty Bank also just about 0.3% down in trade. So it's reduced the losses that we were seeing in the opening trading session. Let's look at the PSU banks, for example. This is the index that's recovered sharply from the morning lows, and you can see about 0.2% higher in trade as well. Private banks, however, and the financial services space too, still look slightly down in trade. As we speak, private banks are down about half odd percent, but again, definitely the up from the lowest point of the day. But the sectors that were really supporting the markets through the trading session were definitely the IT pack. That's the index that has been supporting right from the word go. And you did see some of the heavyweights like Infosys, Tech Mahindra, HCL Technologies, all up in trade. Half odd percent of a move on the upside for the Nifty IT. The FMCG sector also supported the sentiments today. The auto sector as well. All of them were up in trade, and therefore all of these sectors are supporting the indices. Let's look at the top gainers, for example. Ultratech Cement, Apollo Hospitals, Tata Motors, NTPC and Infosys. These are the top gainers in today's trade as far as the Nifty gainers are concerned. On the downside, however, you do have metal counters like Tata Steel, Hindalco, that's down. Adani Ports, HDFC Life and Bharti Airtel, the other laggards as of now. But let's welcome our guest on the show, Mr. Ambarish Baliga, joins in, market expert. Welcome, Mr. Baliga, and thank you so much for taking the time out for this discussion. First up, your view on the markets. We've seen about 10 days of consolidation in the markets. The domestic macros, inflation, IIP, not very supportive. Most of the earnings are now out of the picture, so no positive triggers emerging from there too. Globally, now we are seeing Fitch talking about downgrading of the US banks right now. That's emerging as a fresh concern. There is a fear of higher interest rates for longer as well. What sense do you make of all of this scenario, and what would you tell the average Indian investor? How does one play in the Indian markets right now?
See, in fact, when we spoke last time, I was quite cautious at those levels, and in fact, I was talking of at least 1,000-point correction in the market. Now we are seeing that the markets are taking some support at that 19,200, 19,300 Nifty. It's not really, going below 19,300 as of now. So, as long as it stays above that, we can hope for a bounce back. But still, I think the sentiment is not as positive as it was, a couple of weeks back, because most of the triggers right now are done. Earnings season is over, and like you rightly said, inflation clearly is going to be one of the issues going ahead. And we also have Chinese economy woes, which will actually have a fallout on the other countries, including India. So what we are seeing now is that the defensive sectors are, holding up, but the rest of them, especially metals, we are seeing quite weak. Among defensive sectors is basically pharma, IT, and FMCG to a certain extent is actually holding up. But on an overall, if you ask me, even now, I'm still quite cautious. I think any of these bounce backs should be utilized to book to a certain extent in case someone has not booked in the rally which we saw in the last three or 4 months. It's better to get into some amount of cash, because if we a fall below 19,200, I think it will be a straight fall to 18,500, 18,800 range. And that could give you a decent opportunity to buy back whatever you sold now.
Okay. Yeah. Is there any pocket of the market where you're finding highest margin of safety as of now? Are you nibbling into any sectors, even at the current juncture?
I'm not really buying much at this point of time. The ratio of buy and sell, as far as I'm concerned, is about 80-20. I mean, if for a 100 rupee trade, 80 rupees is sell and 20 rupees is buy. So it's actually 1:4, 1:5 sort of a ratio. Whatever I'm buying is basically in the pharma space to a certain extent, and specialty chemicals where we've seen a very good correction. I mean, although I mean, I cannot expect an immediate move in the specialty chemical space because I think it'll take another 2 or 3 quarters more. But I think these are decent levels to start nibbling into them. Pharma, we are still seeing momentum, and I do see most of the pharma stocks at least giving another 15 to 20% returns from here.
Okay. There's also a view in the market from the mid cap and the small cap space that the valuation gap between the large and the small and mid caps is now closing in,
Right.
and the margin of safety is vanishing from the broader market too. But the fact that the end of the market is attracting a bulk of flows, be it via mutual funds or individual investors also entering in, I'm sure even you must be getting a lot of queries on this. How are you tackling all of those?
In fact, I mean, the way I see it is in the mid-cap space, most of the stocks which have run up in the recent past are actually overvalued. But then I think the momentum is there with them. So it's quite difficult for someone to tell your investors or your subscribers to sell right now. Because what happens is in the next 2 or 3 days, the same stocks are about 5%, 10% higher. So the regret is there. So the best thing to do right now with such stocks would be to keep a trailing
Sure.
stop loss and possibly hold on. But the
Yeah.
day hits the trailing stop loss, one should exit.
Okay, Amrish, stay on with us. Let's take our viewers through the cabinet briefing that's happening, and Anurag Thakur is talking about electric vehicle buses. An important announcement there.
जलंधर ही है। अब वो पुरानी बसों के स्क्रैप के लिए अपनी ज़मीन कहीं उपलब्ध कराते हैं तो उसको अतिरिक्त बसें उस शहर के लिए दी जाएंगी। अब ये बसों का प्रोक्योरमेंट, मेंटेनेंस, ऑपरेशन ये पीपीपी मोड पर किया जाएगा और एक कम्पिटिटिव बिडिंग के अंतर्गत किया जाएगा, जिसमें प्राइवेट प्लेयर्स आगे आ सकते हैं। इसके लिए प्रति किलोमीटर परिचालन के लिए केंद्रीय सहायता दी जाएगी। तो जो भी पीपीपी मोड पर आएगा उसको प्रति किलोमीटर के आधार पर ये चलाने के लिए केंद्रीय सहायता मिलेगी और ये सहायता अगले 10 साल तक मिलती रहेगी। ये स्कीम सन 2037 तक चलेगी। मान लीजिए कोई बस 2025 में शुरू होती है तो 2035 तक उसको उसका लाभ मिलता रहेगा। और पर किलोमीटर देय राशि जो है ये भी कॉम्पिटिटिव बिडिंग के द्वारा ही चयन का पैरामीटर इस पे रखा गया है। ये जो 57,613 करोड़ रुपए पूरे कुल पीएम ई बस सेवा पर खर्च होंगे, ये 57,613 करोड़ रुपए 2037 तक खर्च होंगे। इसमें से 20,000 करोड़ रुपया भारत सरकार की तरफ से दिया जाएगा। शेष राशि जो है वो राज्य सरकारों को देनी पड़ेगी। जैसे बस सेवा के संचालन के लिए इन शहरों में आवश्यक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की जरूरत है, जैसा कि बस डिपो है या अपग्रेडेशन करनी पड़ेगी। जो डिपो है कुछ नए निर्माण होंगे, कुछ की अपग्रेडेशन करनी पड़ेगी। जहां पर इलेक्ट्रिक बसेस के पावर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के लिए भारत सरकार द्वारा सहायता उपलब्ध करवाई जाएगी। जो दूसरा इसका कंपोनेंट है ग्रीन अर्बन मोबिलिटी इनिशिएटिव गुमी के अंतर्गत हम बस रैपिड ट्रांसपोर्ट प्रोजेक्ट्स बनाएंगे, बस रैपिड ट्रांजिट प्रोजेक्ट बनाएंगे और बाइक शेयरिंग, बाइसाइकिल लेन्स जैसे नॉन मोटराइज्ड ट्रांसपोर्ट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का निर्माण और नेशनल कॉमन मोबिलिटी कार्ड एनसीएमसी और इंटेलिजेंट ट्रांजिट मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम आईटीएमएस, मल्टी मॉडल इंटरचेंज फैसिलिटीज जैसे इनोवेटिव प्रोजेक्ट्स भी क्रियान्वयन इसके अंतर्गत किए जाएंगे। इसके लिए भी ग्रीन मोबिलिटी चैलेंज के आधार पर ही शहरों का चयन किया जाएगा। अब ये जो 20,000 करोड़ भारत सरकार देगी, इसका मैंने आपको बताया कि कैसे अलग अलग जो चैलेंज मेथड के माध्यम से पीपीपी प्रोजेक्ट में चुने जाएंगे। इसमें कुछ कंपोनेंट पर गुमी वाले पे भी और पीएमई बस सेवा पर भी 100% भारत सरकार पैसा देगी। वो कंपोनेंट जो है वो हमारा नेशनल कॉमन मोबिलिटी कार्ड, इस पर 100% भारत सरकार देगी। इंटेलिजेंट ट्रांजिट मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम, इसके ऊपर 100% भारत सरकार पैसा देगी। और इलेक्ट्रिक बस के लिए जो पावर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है इसके लिए भी 100% पैसा भारत सरकार देगी। जैसा हिल प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं या नॉर्थ ईस्ट हिली एरियाज हैं, पहाड़ी राज्य हैं, या नॉर्थ ईस्ट के राज्य हैं या यूनियन टेरिटरीज हैं, इनके लिए इनकी जो राजधानी है इनके लिए 90% केंद्र सरकार का हिस्सा होगा और 10% वहां का स्थानीय है। बाकी शहरों के लिए 60% केंद्रीय सहायता दी जाएगी, बल्कि 40% स्थानीय होगी। इस योजना के क्रियान्वयन से देश के शहरों में सार्वजनिक परिवहन सेवा का विस्तार होगा, नागरिकों को ईज ऑफ लिविंग मिलेगा और ग्रीन मोबिलिटी को हमारे बल मिलेगा। और क्लाइमेट चेंज संबंधी जो हम इनिशिएटिव लेते हैं उसको भी एक भारत की एक और पहल इसमें देख सकते हैं आप। तो बार बार जब हमने बजट में भी कहा कि ग्रीन इन्वेस्टमेंट होगी, ग्रीन इनिशिएटिव्स होंगे, ग्रीन इकोनॉमी और ग्रीन जॉब्स, तो ग्रीन ग्रोथ उस दिशा में भी ये कदम बढ़ाया गया है। बाकी जो विषय हैं वो माननीय अश्विनी वैष्णव जी के विभागों से संबंधित हैं। मैं उनसे अनुरोध करता हूं कि उन विषयों पर विस्तार में अपनी बात रखें कि कैबिनेट में क्या क्या निर्णय हो। धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद अनुराग जी। साथियों, देश में जिस तरह से वंचित, गरीब, गांवों में रहने वाले हमारे ऐसे वर्गों की मोदी जी ने आज तक हमेशा चिंता की है, उनके बारे में सोचा है, उनके लिए कई प्रकार की योजनाएं बनाई हैं, उसी कड़ी में आज एक बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण योजना माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने कैबिनेट में अप्रूव की है, वो है विश्वकर्मा योजना। विश्वकर्मा के माने हमारे ग्रामीण क्षेत्रों में, कस्बों में, छोटे शहरों में जो हम देखते हैं बहुत सारे ऐसे वर्ग हैं जो कि गुरु शिष्य परंपरा के तहत पीढ़ी दर पीढ़ी एक प्रकार से एक अपना एक बड़ा स्किल लेके उस काम को करते आए हैं। जैसे कुम्हार हुए मिट्टी के काम, सुनार सोने का काम, लोहार लोहे का काम।
All right, you did hear Cabinet Minister, INB Minister Anurag Thakur announcing the key highlights of the PME Bus Seva. The Cabinet nod to PME Bus Seva has been given for augmenting city bus operations by 10,000 e-buses going forward. There is an estimated cost of 57,613 crores, of which 20,000 crore rupees will be provided by the central government. The rest of the money will be given to the state governments. This scheme will be supporting bus operations for next 10 years, and also the scheme will cover cities of 3 lakh and above population. All the capital cities of UTs, northeastern region, hill states are to be included in this as well, and priority to cities having no organized bus service will also be given, and scheme is likely to generate about 45,000 to 55,000 direct jobs as well. Let me get back to our guest. Mr. Ambarish Palika is with us. Mr. Palika, if you heard the minister talk about, what do you make sense? We are already seeing some reactions of, coming on the stock like JBM Auto, Electra, Green Tech. These are the companies that have been bidding for some of the EV projects, and they've been getting orders, and sudden spurt about 10-11% odd we are seeing intraday on these. What is the sense that you get from this announcement, and how is it likely to impact the auto segment?
No, clearly this is extremely positive for these companies, because straight away I think they would get the orders. In like addition to JBM and Electra, I think a couple of orders should also be received by companies like Tata Motors and Ashok Leyland. So I think there are totally about 4 companies in India which get the maximum orders as far as e-buses are concerned. So it's Tata Motors, Ashok Leyland, JBM Auto and Electra Green.
Okay, understood that. So that's as far as the auto space is concerned. Big announcements coming in on the EV buses space, and some of the stocks are already reacting. Tata Motors, Ashok Leyland, Electra Green Tech and JBM Auto likely to be the big beneficiaries of this order as and when this gets implemented also going forward from here. Apart from the auto space, we were discussing about the mid and the small cap space. There's also another space, and that's the railway space that also likely is going to come up in the cabinet briefing today. There is news that and reports suggest that there could be PLI scheme that the government could mull as far as the rail parts are also concerned. Your thoughts on this entire railway space right now, and you know, what augurs for this entire sector? How should one be really approaching some of these companies like Titagarh Wagons? Maybe even there is news flow on IRFC as well on the stake sale. So several news flows coming in on the railway pack as well. How do you view this sector?
I mean, this sector has been doing extremely well, looking at the sort of budget allocation for railways, I mean, last year, and the sort of order flows which most of these companies have been receiving. Clearly, I mean, one should remain positive as far as Titagarh is concerned. Titagarh, Jupiter Wagon, Texmaco Rail, then you have Rail Vikas Nigam, Elcon. I think these are the companies which will continue doing well. But at the same time, there are a number of other companies which are also suppliers of railway parts. I mean, among them you have Escorts. I mean, although we know Escorts as a tractor manufacturer, but they also have a division which is into railway parts. So you have companies like KEC, which is mostly into towers, but then they also have a division which manufactures parts for railways. So these are some of the companies which will benefit. I mean, the other one would be BEML.
Okay, understood that. You know, a lot of other sectors are also moving up now in trade. The Nifty Realty Index is one of the top gaining indices today, right now as we speak. Let's look at the winners list right there. So you have Macro Tech developers that's moved up. You have Phoenix Mills, DLF, Oberoi Realty, Mahindra Lifespace as well moving up. Mr. Balika, do you look at the realty space? Does anything in this space interest you?
Yeah, in fact, I mean, I look at realty space quite closely, and the sort of, pre-sales which most of these companies have been doing in the last 12 to 18 months has really been extremely good, because we have seen most of them doubling their sales, like YOY. And even going ahead, clearly you have both the premium as well as the affordable housing segment doing extremely well. So, in addition to the stocks which I mentioned, I think one should also look at companies like Godrej Properties, which I think is a flagship as far as real estate space is concerned. DLF is the other one, which still has a decent upside. And among the smaller ones, clearly the one which is into affordable housing and has recently got into housing is Arihant Superstructures, which is actually like Navi Mumbai based. That's one stock which I think should do extremely well going ahead.
Okay. Very, very interestingly, Indiabulls Housing Finance also one of the top gainers. In fact, the top gainer in the FNO space right now as well. It's up about 5% in today's trade. Another segment that's in fact caught fire almost in today's trading action is the PSU defense stocks. They are on fire. You know, GRSE stocks like Cochin Shipyard, they've all rallied pretty sharply in today's intraday trading session as well. Masdok, of course, has been outperforming for a large period of time. We've been seeing the entire defense space, but particularly if we focus on the shipbuilding aspect, which is the stock that you believe still has a lot of steam left. Cochin is up 16% today, 19% up for GRSE, and Masdok up by 4% today.
In fact, I recommended all these stocks about 12 to 15 months back, and from there they become multi-baggers. The last one recommended by me was Garden Ridge Shipyard, where I had a price target of 700, and it does 700, and from there it's bounced. I mean, another 15%. It was in upper circuit today. But the issue at these levels is that most of them are overpriced. If you look at from a fundamental angle. These stocks have moved up, clearly based on the sort of order flows which they've been getting. But going ahead, I think the issue would be on execution, because a company which is getting 5x, 6x the sort of orders which it can handle, I'm sure, going ahead, that could become a bottleneck. And no really questioning that at this point of time. I think the party is on, so everyone is enjoying. But here also, I would say, since the momentum is there, keep a trailing stop loss. But then these are not the stocks which you should be buying at this point of time. If you have you look to book out once the trailing stop loss is hit.
Okay. Okay, understood that. In fact, very interestingly, today in the morning show, we had our technical expert also, Milin Vasudev, who actually gave his stock recommendation as GRSE right before the markets had opened up. So I'd like to play that chunk also for all our viewers, because he had talked about it before the markets opened, and the stock is now trading at 771. It touched a new 52-week high, also 17% up in trade. Listen into that conversation too.
Stocks which might be outperforming on the charts. What are you looking at?
Stock which saw good buying was GRSC, currently trading at 657, one with a stop loss of 620 and a target price of 700 to 730.
Right, Milin, let's work this backwards. And I'd like Gauran's opinion on Garden Reach Shipbuilders as well. Milin, first to you. We've seen an absolutely astounding rally on the defense plays, especially the three shipyards, Mastock, Garden Reach, and Cochin Shipbuilders. Very, very strong breakout, as you rightly pointed out yesterday on Garden Reach, 8.6 million shares traded, and of course, this is a record high. Are these levels which really, should worry people? The stocks, gone up 2.5 times over the last 18-20 months. Is it overheated?
Yeah. Shell, it is not overheated. I would say that this is a fresh buy entry over here, because the risk reward ratio is very favorable over here. And even if you see the monthly charts last month it consolidated, and now that consolidated level is being crossed by good volume. So this clearly suggests that there is some steam in this stock, and you could test the higher levels of 700, 720, what I am expecting on this.
All right, so the intraday call given by Milin Vasudev and our expert Ambarish had also voted for this entire sector. Several of the stocks here about 15-16 months ago when the rally in fact started, and right now it's almost reaching a peak is what we are seeing at this point in time. But Mr. Balika, any other space that you believe can actually create such multi-baggers in the next 15-18 months or so?
Like I just said a bit earlier, specialty chemical space is one, I think, which can play out extremely well. We saw some multi-baggers from this space in 2020 to 2021, and after that it has cooled off. But now I think it's a good level to get in, and possibly, I mean, you could get extremely good returns from here. I don't know about multi-baggers, because these stocks had already become multi-baggers earlier.
Yeah.
So I think if one is looking at a return of about 25-30% over the next 2 years, I'm talking of CAGR, I think, I mean, these stocks can give that sort of a return.
Any particular names that you'd like to talk about?
I mean, I would say at these levels, one could look at buying Deepak Nitrite, and the other one is SRF, but I think SRF, one should wait for levels of what, 2050, 2100 levels.
Okay, understood that. So the specialty chemical space could be the next outperformer over the next long term 15-18 months or so. So definitely keep these stocks on your radar. Many thanks, Mr. Balika, for being with us on the show and discussing such wonderful insights with all our viewers on several of the topics that we've discussed. Meanwhile, the markets are inching higher, 172 points on the Sensex, 65,573. So the day's high coming in on the Sensex, about 0.25% up in trade, 0.1% higher for the Nifty at 19,462. So what we started off as looks like the markets have actually gained a firm footing in towards the closing of the session. But before we wrap up this edition, you should get ready for a special series that's Market Masters, where market gurus reveal their investment strategies for a winning portfolio. So join us the coming Monday, that's 21st of August, with Nilesh Shah, MD of Kotak Mahindra Asset Management Company, to get his market insights and in-depth market analysis. You can also send us your queries on this number, that's 730-308-0488. Questions will also be taken live on this discussion. Let's focus on the company Shriram Properties. The company has reported its earnings and it has registered a net profit of about 16.6 odd crore rupees in Q1 compared to 10.5 crore rupees